talk to yourself. Comment, when you see something. So you're not alone, Mark. This is such a simple question. It's such a profound question for everyone that affects everyone. There's no easy answer, a quick fix or anything. It takes practice, but a particular kind of practice. I know you've been practicing for a long time, as with many people here. So let me ask you this, Mark. In the past, through your Soto Zen practice, has that had any effect on this tendency?
Wow, that really puts me on the spot. I have to say the tendency is pretty bad, given, it's fairly, it requires an awful lot of mindfulness to bring it to a cease. It's pretty compulsive, that's the word. And it's there, unless I'm very present, it's just there. So I wish I could say, oh, it's just a recent thing. It's a habit of quite some time.
Yeah, that's the issue. Because most practices, I'm not critiquing Soto Zen. It's just that the different forms of Buddhist practice, they address certain things. But this particular tendency is a distinctive obsession of human beings. It's a particular, it has a particular effect on us as linguistic beings. Obsession, not in the sense of obsession of food, objects, and so on. It goes unnoticed because this is all that we've ever known. Words, language, ruminations, monologues. This is all that we've ever known. It's all that we've ever been conditioned, taught. This is how we solve problems. This is how we engage with the world. This filter. So unless we have a practice that, unless we highlight this, put a spotlight on this issue within us, and engage with the practice that targets this, it still goes unnoticed. And it permeates to other forms of Dharma practice. Sutra study, exchanging self and others. It's all done through the rumination. Right? We're talking to ourselves. And when we listen to Dharma, like here, we're filtering through words. So the words comes to us, and we're cognizing it, receiving it through words and language, and it tends to stay up here. So it's pervasive. It's the way we communicate, it's the way we experience the world. There's only one practice, one kind of category of practice that under which there are many different methods, but one kind of category of practice that can address that. And that is methods that or approaches to practice that tend to be somatic. So under this rubric, we have 4 stations of mindfulness, if practiced correctly. 4 stations of mindfulness: body, sensations, mind, and mental factors. These last 2 very easily can veer into discursive realm as well. So of the 4 first 2, but if practiced correctly, also the other 2 as well. So that's one category. And in Chan, direct contemplation of sight and sound. And silent illumination, not necessarily Huatou practice or koan practice, but silent illumination in the way that we teach it, which is different than shikantaza, in a very narrowly confined way in Japanese Soto Zen. So silent illumination is beyond sitting, And the whole approach that I teach silent illumination is basically somatic. So if the teaching does not highlight the pervasiveness of words and language and its effect on us, of course, along with that, our tendency for prapancha, which is proliferation of notions and ideas, and mistaking that for the things themselves, mistaking our thoughts about the thing with the things themselves. That's not highlighted, and that goes unnoticed. One can still be practicing all kinds of these methods. There are other methods as well. So my suggestion is and it's very good that you're aware of it. Most people take it for granted because this is all they ever know. So you've turned the light around to see, wow, there's a lot going on here, right? And you notice this commentary. When you notice this commentator inside you, you're already not the commentator. Of course, we're kind of drawn to it out of habit, kind of back to commenting on the commentator, maybe. But the first step is to be aware the extent to which we are tethered, bound to this proliferation of words and language. It manifests in the form of self-consciousness, monologue, commenting, judging on everything that we experience. So first is to be aware of that. And when we are aware of it, we must have a method to go to. Otherwise, we're aware of it and we're sucked right back to it, right back into commenting on commentator within us. The method is come back to the body. So a particular kind of body, a body that's relaxed, grounded, and the energy, you gotta bring it from here down is when we're commentating on ourselves, engaging monologue, judging people, judging ourselves, talking inside. Our energy is definitely up here. So you catch yourself, and then you maybe just gotta consciously practice this. Close your eyes and just get a sense, check in on where the sense of bodily weight is. Guarantee it's going to be up here. You close your eyes, okay, and then do the progressive relaxation down to different parts of the body. Bring it down to feet, to the earth. Your contact point, the soles of the feet to earth. The texture, sense of weight, sense of groundedness, being in the body, being in the body. And then you engage in whatever task that you're doing. It could be throughout the day. So relax, ground, engage. Right? When you engage with the work that you're doing, you're with the body. The body is engaging. So if you're walking, engage in walking. It takes a long time, because we're conditioned decades like this. So we'll automatically go to the default setting, which is here. Talking. You want to realize it, recognize where it is in the body, ground, relax, and engage. That's in daily life. In sitting meditation, I usually have my students work on somatic methods, because we're just so much in the head space, modern time. So in sitting, relax, ground, and then maybe practice silent illumination. Or when we do sitting, just the experience of sitting, I frame it as maybe the feeling of the earth element, the body sitting. So that means experiencing of solidity. Just as you now sitting, the sense of weight, the earth element, the sense of solidity, sense of groundedness, and it's connected to the larger earth beneath. So the body sitting, the mind is aware of this act of sitting. So it gets us out of the head and gets us into the experiencing. Even when one's working with the breath, movement of the breath. That's the wind element. So you're meditating on the wind element. Nothing to do with sitting and thinking. Nothing to do with thinking. It's just experiencing motion of the breath, movement of the breath, the quality of it, or just the sensation of it. The Satipatthana, the 4 stations of mindfulness, would be body and the sensation. Actually, nothing even, if you're doing like that, it's not even about the breath anymore. Because we're aware of the breath because of sensations. If you have no sensation, you wouldn't know you're breathing. So you're actually meditating on sensation, the experiencing of breath. So rarely I tell people to use counting of the breath. Very rarely, because people tend to ruminate and get caught up with the energy up here. So unless there's so much going on, they need something to play with, different kinds of counting. 20 to 2, 19 to 1, get more busy. Otherwise, so, and sometimes during retreat, I teach direct contemplation. So that's the short answer. As for the detail of how to do that, you have to. Mark, do you have my book, Silent Illumination?
I do, yes.
So read it very carefully. Take it apart, section by section, and try to experience it. Like the direct contemplation part, the actual, not the explanation, the context of that cognitive perception, not that part, just the actual description of the method. And then just try. So try to disentangle when we perceive sound, disentangle the sound from our notions of the sound, our labeling of the sound. Try to disentangle that. When we see something, it's just a sight experiencing. Disentangle that from what we think we're seeing. So always infuse that in your daily life. You're always aware of the presence or absence of prapancha. Right? You really have to shine a 100-watt light on this, right? In our life. Then we'll begin to disentangle. Shine a light and have a method to be grounded in the body. In the experience as opposed to our notion of the experience. And slowly that will, if you practice this, always shine a light. Don't just practice mindfulness, like be aware of this, be aware of that, walking, just walking. Don't just do that, right? Because you have a running commentary while you're doing that. You have to first distinguish prapancha, absent, present. Absent, and then have a method of experiencing. So develop that sensitivity. Once you've developed this strong sensitivity to the proliferation tendency for prapancha, then they will start to diminish. If you don't develop that sensitivity, then they'll just be ever present, years, decades.
I think my practice of silent illumination is my default practice, but I think my practice is too lax. It's too let in, let be, okay, we'll see how long this lasts, and eventually it goes away. I'm getting the message that I need to be way more, I need to engage way more energy here, more video, more effort.
Well, you have to be very vigilant of the presence and absence of prapancha. And then when you sit, that vigilance will be there. It's not a constant checking what you're doing. It's not that. It's when you first begin, set the tone, vigilance, engage in the practice. And in daily life, vigilant. Start to distinguish between my notion of this with what this is. And really, really pay attention to that. Really disentangle the words and language spinning in your head and surround our experience with the actual experiencing. So that practice of being disentangled, that's the first step. Yeah. And then you'll start to translate to sitting, walking, engaging. Otherwise, it goes undisturbed, and then it continues to pervade every aspect of what we are experiencing, including Dharma practice. So this is the Chan. I wouldn't even say Zen. I would say this is the Chan approach in our tradition. This fundamental position that we have towards words and language. So, as you know, my teacher, prolific writer, a lot of words and language. But, and I've written a lot. I'm a researcher too, right? But I'm not bound by words and language. So you have to first disentangle, and then when you're engaged with words and language, that automatic identification, it's not there. It's just words and language. And there's a kind of freedom in the realm of words and language. But first, we have to be able to disentangle that. That goes for everyone. This is the human condition. Does that make sense?
And that's extremely helpful. I've got a lot to work with and think about. Thank you. Well, I'll try and keep the thinking to a minimum, but a lot to work with. Thank you.
See you in August. You're coming on a retreat, right?
I beg your pardon?
You're coming on the retreat, right?
Oh, for sure. I'm paid up. Can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, David Kelly had a question. You had your hand up for a while, right?
Thank you. It's great listening to your wisdom. Just one thing, as I think you explained some of it there. Well, my question is, this I of the I, the ego, is not. It's ego. That's how I look at things. But it's a being, and my question really is to do with how do you separate? When do you know when you get to that place of the I being shattered? If you kind of understand, when the I is completely shattered and you get to that place of no mind. How do you know when you get to that place, is my question really.
You have some experience?
Well, I've got to, I practice Chan and Travadan is the only two I practices I do. And I've done a lot of sitting in silent illumination, and I've done a lot of metta as well practice. And I've got to a place where I counted, like obviously do the breath and stuff, but I got to this place of I didn't even realize that I was breathing anymore, if you understand me. I was still present. I was sitting in a chair, but it was like I was watching myself sitting in the chair, even though my eyes were closed and stuff. But I was still present on the environment and everything around me at the same time.
Who do you practice with?
I practice with people here in Ireland, Sunyata, and I do Sangha with Sister Juno every single night of the week, actually.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I practice with a place called here in Ireland called Sunyata here, and I've done Amaretti as well. And I practice with Sister Juno doing Chan every single night.
Mhm. So have you talked with the teachers there?
I do sometimes in Dharma talk, but not every night now. I'm beginning to talk a bit more now.
I mean, do you have a relationship with
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah,
teacher?
yeah,
A teacher.
yeah, I do. Yeah.
So have you shared this with your teacher?
No, not yet.
Okay, you gotta share with your teacher.
Okay.
Because they know you better.
Yeah.
They know, where the question's coming from. Right.
Okay.
And then they've seen how you practice. Maybe they've assigned you with a method of practice, so they know the particular course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in general, I will say something about your question. Okay. So you talk about the I, sense of I, sense of me, ego, whatever. From the Chan perspective and the Buddha Dharma perspective, the I is not a thing. A thing that needs to be dismantled or shattered, as you say, right? Because there's originally not a thing. It's not really like there's a thing, and then I have to use a method to get rid of it. What it is habit tendency. Habit tendency. And there's a physiological component to that often. When we are being self-referential. When a person is engaging monologue, like the previous question, right? This running commentary that circles around me, I, mine. There's this kind of false habitual tendency that assumes there's a reference point around all of our thoughts, feelings circling around. Right? So from the Buddha Dharma's perspective, there's originally, there's no point of reference. It's just moment to moment constructed habit tendencies. And through this moment to moment erroneous assumption, a self coming to being. Okay, so self, sense of I, come into being through grasping, habit tendency. It's not that there is a thing and I'm grasping onto it. No, the thing is created through grasping. There is no thing. Okay, it's like I was talking to a student before, a couple of days ago. About when we experience vexations. Originally, there is no vexations. Greed, hatred, ignorance, the poisons. The Buddha Dharma view is there are these conditions that come together and create anger, aversion, jealousy, greed. In the core, in the center, nothing. It's just these conditions coming together. So you don't want to reify the experiences. I want to get rid of my greed. There's no greed. The working end of practice is I'm going to start to dismantle the conditions. For example, when you feel greed, when you feel jealousy or any kind of vexations, there's a physiological component to the habit tendency. Right? And there's a habitual circling of thoughts that tend to happen. Right? So that's what we deal with. So if these 5 fingers, for example, represent the 5 conditions that make up greed, right? In the core of it, there's nothing, right? But the conditions are there. So you just change the conditions. Then the rest of the conditions will change. If you change one condition, the rest of the 4 conditions will start to morph. Now, what is that condition? For example, you can just change the body. When you're vexed, you know, when a person's vexed, the body may be tense. So you just relax the body, ground the body, and then the perception will change. The feeling tone would change. So that's generally my comment on what is the I. I is made up of non-I. It's just these other things. So what we're doing is we're working with the other things. There is no I. There's no self. It's not as if there's a self that we have to abandon. The self that we attach to. It's through attachment, self coming to being. Now, meditation experiences. Meditation experiences. Meditation experience. A meditation experience is made up of other meditation experiences. Right? So when we have the experience of bliss, not aware of breathing, but the breathing is still going on, or there's an absence of discursive thinking, wandering thought, it's just clear. There's a physiological component to that. Right? Now, originally, when you're sitting there, everything could be fine. But what happened? What happened is David, a tendency thought, hey, what was that? What did I just experience? What could be? Well, maybe the self is not there. See, you just made it into a thing. Originally, you were already free. Right now, it's just the psychosomatic events, moment to moment to moment. But we reified this into a thing, and you just made it into a thing. Right? It's all good. Keep sitting. Right? Things happen. Anything that come and go, anything that come and go, that changes, don't make it into a thing. This is all conditioned, all conditioned. This, what I'm saying up to this point, is basic Buddha Dharma called causes and conditions, or dependent origination. And everything dependently constructed, moment to moment. As soon as we pause and make it into a thing, originally it's fine. We just made it into a thing, then we're obstructed. Yeah. Right. So the shattering of the self. Now, in that state, everything is fine. Is self there? Self is there. Self is there. That's why we made it into a thing. So for a person who have experienced no mind, no self, they don't make it. They don't make anything to a thing. Right? How does one know? It's kind of earth-shattering, because because this self-referentiality goes unnoticed, pervasive. It's all that we've ever known. When this thing becomes absent, it's like the whole world collapsed, yet everything's present. But very different, very different. It's not a meditative state. And the residue of that, it's like the person is rewired. The person's relationship. So we talk about dependent origination, causes and conditions. This is basically about relationships. Another word, more simpler term to understand things. Relationships. So the relationship, one's relationship to thoughts, to feelings, to people, to events, to the feelings and things that arise, things that go, that relationship completely changed. So at that time, you can talk to your teacher more in depth. Otherwise, these meditative states, these altered states of consciousness, we're concentrated, or we're focused, free from wandering thoughts. My general suggestion is just keep going. It's fine. Don't make anything into a thing. If you want to report it to your teacher, then just share.
Thank you.
Okay. Bing Bing. Okay, unmute. How are you?
Good. I have a question related to the self-talk. I feel like for the self-talk, if it's just some background noisy, I just come to the body. It's very easy to release and to know what I'm grasping on. But and most time, it's grasping on some views. But I feel all the practice, like the meditation, or even like the class, what I learned from your class, the Yogacara, all of those can help me to calm down and even know that, like the Yogacara, I know that the mind is recall something back and making a story. And sometimes when I say this, it disappears. But for the things I could not see clear, I feel it's hard. It's just temporarily come down. And I feel it's, so maybe the question is about the practice and see through the thing. When I see through it, it's not a thing. Or I experience without the grasping, things will be fine or even better. It won't be a thing. But so how about the practice and the view? Maybe the question is.
So let me recap your question. Dealing with other things, it tends to be easy when you see through it. You know, you're able to let it go, chattering monologue. But when it comes to views, maybe opinions, I don't know what you mean by views. They tend to be harder. Is that your question? Like strong opinions? Yeah? Okay. So there are, as we engage in practice, there's a gradation. There's a gradation to the types of things that we reify, solidify into a thing. And our vested interest also vary according to different things. Now, if it's just a day-to-day running commentary on this and that, not so important. See it, embody, goes away. It's fine. But when we have a stronger view about it, and it's very hard to see through it, especially with those views that are backed up by experience, like your opinion about certain things actually come from something that you have experienced in the past, meaning that there's a history to it. Yeah, it's very difficult. So that's natural. Views in Buddhism and in the specifically the middle way school, Madhyamaka, Nagarjuna, he identifies this view as the perhaps the most important, the most deep-rooted, difficult things to uproot, the most dangerous. So there's no quick answer because it's the most difficult. You know, sort of chip away at it. But views are made up of non-views. So you don't reify into a thing. My view of this is really strong. No, don't need to do that. When we do that, we make it into a thing. And then we try to get rid of this thing. You'll never be able to do it. So the way to lessen our hold on things, our views and opinions, is just to see the relationship of that opinion, to understand it more deeper. Where does it come from? How does it relate to other things? In a reflexive way, you can just think about it. You know? And experientially, just observe it. Observe its effect on the body. Observe its effect on your breath when we have those views. In other words, you don't reify view into a thing. You come at it through the body, you come at it through the breath. So what if my breath is different? When we're holding this view, what if my body is relaxed? Where's that view now? You know what I'm saying? The view is made up of some other things. What if some other things change? Some other opinions and so on. So when these other things start to diminish, then our hold on that view will also diminish. Slowly. These strong opinions and views or tendencies are very deep rooted. Yeah. So the key here is don't make view into a fixed thing. If you discover something about you, I tend to hold on to something, don't make it into a thing. Second, the way to chip away at it is just to focus on the body part, focus on the breath, the relationship that it has to your whole being, and then change those conditions to your practice. Allow it to just unfold, change. And you'll see that your opinion also changes. Not so solid. So the conditions change, then your views will change. Is it okay, Bingbing?
Yes, thank you. I think for me, maybe the first will be change the relationship with the view and build a stronger foundation practice. And with condition change, the view will change.
Okay. Alona, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I have a question about, you were talking about earth element and the windy element. What about fire element? When heat is starting accumulating, a strong heat,
Mhm.
we can, to some extent, manipulate it.
Mm.
Is it useful? Is it useful to progress in meditation, or is it something that we have to rid of, to let go?
What is the it that you're referring to? The heat?
Heat, fire, heat, warmth.
Mhm. Do you have that often?
Especially in retreats.
Mm. Okay. I didn't mention heat because usually people don't have it too often. Right? So, and it's not always present. Whereas the earth element, it's always present because our body is here. Our breath is always here. But heat sometimes can come and go and can be disruptive to practice. So when we have heat arising, what do you usually do when you sense a lot of heat?
After relaxation, I start with breath,
Mm.
and heat accumulates here.
Mm.
It's strange. Like I'm always amazed because it's here. Start accumulates with breathing, and then I try to just put it to transform it to whole body, to whole being. I think it helps. And it feels like it could be, I can make it more stronger. I have this power to make it more stronger heat, but I would like to be not so active during meditation, just to observe. Is it useful to make it stronger?
In Chan, we don't try to make it stronger. Yeah. When it is stronger, it burns up the other elements. It brings the 4 elements out of balance. Right? You feel drained afterwards. So it's best that the 4 elements are just earth, water, fire, wind, solidity, fluidity, heat, and air, breath are all balanced, such that they don't even exist as really balanced. So that's the ideal. So when one element becomes very powerful and strong, it usually shoots upward. So if you focus on the breath here, no problem, it goes over here. So you have to focus on the breath in the abdomen, right, or in the base of the body posture, let it dissipate. So sometimes when a student have that in retreat setting, I ask the person to focus on the base of the soles of the feet, right beneath the ball. There's a point here. Focus on that. So to put the thumb when we're sitting, put the thumb there to get a good feeling. And then even when we leave the thumb, take away, lead the sensations there, and that will the heat will exit. It's a temporary fix. Sometimes I ask people to just experience the coolness of the breath, but not staying here. Right? The coolness of the breath, and bring it down. Coolness of the breath, and bring it down. Every breath, bring it down, diffuse it. Yeah. So that's my suggestion. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. In the meditation, we have all kinds of psychophysiological reactions and experiences. Right? These things usually indicate an imbalance in our psychosomatic processes. Or, yeah, I would say imbalance. Like one part is stronger, another part is weaker, and has to do with physiology of a person. So if there's a pattern within you, not the other elements, just the heat always come up when I sit, and that means beyond sitting meditation, you gotta somehow address that. Bring a balance to the elements. Like drink more water or something. Drink more water or experience coolness. Now, have you noticed, I'm just curious, have you noticed particular patterns of thought that accompany the heat? If you want to say.
Outside of the meditation, maybe too active attitude toward life, too active, too much habit to control things. But it's much better now. It's much better. But in general, in my personality, too active approach.
Yeah, so you step back and let chaos happen. Just let chaos happen. Just watch your daughter, your children, your coworker, your friend, just like let them make mistakes. Just see what happens. Now the urge you want to control, the urge you want to fix things, you want to just watch that diffuse. The body relax. Just
yeah, that is also tentation in meditation, that something emerged and you want to control. I want to control, to play with it, to examine, to experiment, to try to find a new way to
so disentangle the tendency from the actual experience. Right? So you have heat, you have some phenomena arising, okay? Just some phenomena arising. And you have the impulse come, the urge. Just experience, just watch that. Have you seen this Chinese representation of Maitreya Buddha? Usually it's like this fat Buddha with all like 5 kids pulling the ear, entangling.
Yeah.
It's just like, be like Maitreya. Things like pulling the ear, you want to do this, you're just like, okay, still smiling. It's like, let's see what you do. Surrender, uncontrolled. Then these 5 kids, which are the 5 skandhas: form, sensation, perception, volition, consciousness. All these. Just watch it. You want to play? Here's a playground. This is the playground. You go at it and see what happens. Okay. Then these physiological issues that brings up habit, psychological, emotional tendencies, go beyond that. Then you just pure method. You just stay with the method. The drama, right? You can have your drama, I don't care. Just love the method. Then these things would pass. Otherwise, our whole meditation career is just dealing with these 5 kids that are just pulling you. You know, get nowhere. It's just, you know, could be exciting, but so what? These psychosomatic states. Just method.